Welcome to this video where I'm going to go into the Ableton operator and we are going to start synthesizing drum sounds. Remember, the key is to keep the oscillator moving. So let's head in and start working. Here we are again in Ableton Live and we are going to make a kick. To make a kick, we are going to set notes to trigger our sound to keep oscillating, and I've set it to this note on a loop. This is literally the note you would play on your keyboard. Could be any note, I just set that. Oh, let me do it from scratch. It's empty, there is nothing. Let's work in a style everyone understands. If you're using Logic or Pro Tools, you would understand this better. So I'm going to make a 1-bar loop, and in that 1-bar loop, we are going to create our kick. But to create it, we need notes to be playing constantly on our keyboard, on our MIDI, to trigger the oscillator in the synth. So what we do is I'm going to just click in a few notes. Could be usually the keyboard opens up here, but this is quite a high range. Let's hear how that sounds. You'll be the judge if you can make a kick in this range or not. Okay, now when we're playing, that's the sound of the oscillator going right now. It's just oscillator A, the rest are off. The way it's set up, D outputs into C, C outputs into B, and B outputs into A. They are all connected and A is the master. So what we need from a kick, I introduced the concept of ADRS, attack, decay, sustain, and release. Attack is the time taken from when you press down a note, the time it takes to go from zero sound to its maximum pitch, not pitch, volume, decibels. And decay is the time it takes that note to go from maximum volume to stable constant volume. That's decay. Sustain is the time it takes, how long the note will sound, how long you hold it. And release, on the other hand, is the time it takes for the note to go off. When you release the key, how long does it take for that note to go silent? This is a sine wave we have. It has quite a bit of decay, release, and sustain. So first we get rid of the sustain, we don't want any. See? But the decay is still, something. And the release, so let's first get rid of the release and something like that. But you see, before we do anything, I'm going to turn on the pitch envelope. This, we were on the oscillator A. Now the pitch envelope, I click there and we are going to turn it up 48 steps. That means the resting point will be 48 semitones away from the start, like that. And we are going to turn it up 100%, and like that. Now we go in and fix our note, take it down an octave, another octave. Let's leave it there. Play with the pitch envelope first, take away its decay and its release, and sustain. Sustain is okay. Okay. Now uh, I've increased the volume a bit of oscillator A, and the decay is almost down. There is no release, and that's the thump we have. The more you play with the decay, let's leave it there, it gets more of the note ringing. Now let's go to oscillator B. I've turned down the release and the sustain and mix it in. Now we add white noise with oscillator A C to give it, a feeling of air, space. And in the same way, I'm going to turn down this. Now we have a kick. Depending on what genre you're producing, could this sounds good. The good thing about this is it's tuned. You can play it anywhere in any key if you're doing EDM. If I set a fixed frequency, then it would be impossible to tune. All right. Now, I want to show you why I set up this audio track here. If I've played my kick in a certain key, I like it, or a range I like this, I like that. Now I can get rid of this and perform it in to quite sloppy. Let me quantize it a bit. I play it in because I want to capture velocity information, even though I played quite constantly here. Now, when I have a kicker like this, I'm going to record it on this. I'm making a sample. I just made a sample of a kick. Now, to bounce it down to audio, I have to record it on here. I switch this off because the latency issues. I want to record it on the grid the way I've performed it. Instead of going to master, I'm going to set it to 1, and now when I play, I have to arm this. Now when I play, you see signal in channel 1. Let me show you. You see the signal, though I'm not monitoring. I don't want to record any latency. Now I'm going to record it down. Boom, done. And all you need now, you have a one shot in time. See, you can, if I play this back, so I like the middle one, this one. So I cut that out and delete the rest. So I cut this out, and that's my sample, my kick sample. And later when I program my music, I can just use this sample and to cut it on the grid without cutting any transients. That's it. Put it on beat 1. Now if I duplicate this, now I have a kick programmed by myself, created by myself. I can do processing on it now. See, but the processing I would do here depends on what I would be going to use it for. That should be for another lesson, not this one. The quickest I can do here is put a drum bass on this and crunch it up a bit. Maybe give it some boom. Boom. Now we have a kick sample. Now we go back to our oscillator and continue to make a. One more thing before we move on to the snare drum is, after we have our kick the way we want it, we can add something called shapers. And we get shapers when we click on the filter section. They're right here on all drums really. And what they help us do is accentuate some harmonics. Without it, what's this? With it, it adds, you see, it adds a little bit of, smooth to it. It sounds better with this. So you can add some shaper drive. It's like overdrive. Hear that? To where you like it. And then you can also experiment with other output algorithms. That's a good one. But let's keep with this. Now we move on to the snare. Let's make a snare. I'm going to start a fresh track, insert a MIDI track, delete the previous one, or leave it, and we just kind of make it invisible, and we insert we put an operator on the new track, and here we go. Now the concept is quite the same. If this is the sine wave, all we have to think about is the sound of a snare drum we want to make. In normal circumstances, a sine would be in this range to my ears, a triangle wave. And like the kick, we are going to make it snappy. Yes, by pulling down the sustain and the release and playing with the decay. And then we continue to the pitch envelope and increase the peak and turn up the pitch envelope. This would be like the body of the snare. But before we continue, we don't want this oscillator A to be affecting oscillator B. So I'm going to change the output algorithm to the last one. Come back here, play with the decay a bit. I think decay wise that will be a snare, but we need a bigger sound. We play lower. Okay. Now let me increase the volume just a bit. Okay. This would be the body. And now on the second oscillator, I'm just going to add the, a snare drum has rings at the bottom, what we call the snares, that make the shh noise when you hit it. They vibrate with the bottom skin. So we know that for them to vibrate, you first have to kick. So there is a bit of time before they start to ring, to vibrate with the bottom skin. That's why I'm going to put some attack on them, increase the time it takes for them to get on. And this is going to be white noise, and mix it in. But before I mix it in, we are going to pull down the release and the sustain, because we don't want a sustaining snare. Now we mix them in. I'm just playing some notes. Now I have to mix this sound. Okay. like this note. Now what we are going to do is add some shapers and see how that goes. We are going to put a swap and give it some drive. Snare is too loud. Now let's program in some notes. Remember, we programmed a one bar loop here that's going to be playing the kick. Now let's program some snare with a kick. Now we have a snare pattern playing with a kick we've made. You can go back and check. I like this better. And let's see the shaper, the hard one. Just decreasing that drive and that drive with a bit. I like this more. Some reverb on here, this snare. Let's put it in the rock. Without the reverb, with the reverb. If we send it to this reverb, I prefer this one, but I don't want a lot high. And there we have it. And just like we did with the previous one, we are going to keep this and bounce it down to audio. Now we have a snare we made ourselves. Now let's continue and make some hi-hats. Alright, we are going to make some hi-hats. We are going to make a new MIDI track, and on this track we are going to put the operator. Put the operator. Why I bounce them down to audio is because if I leave them in the synth and I have 10 synths running in one project, it takes up a lot of processing power and I can't do certain processing. However, when I bounce them down to audio, I'm able to record audio signals, one shots with their effects in one go. You saw the snare tails of the reverb. I will go back to that later at a later point, but for now let's make some hi-hats. To make hi-hats, the same principle. I'm going to make a clip. I'm going to put some notes in here. let me just put on the downbeats. I think that's it. There and there. And when we play that back, now because we are making a hi-hats pitched, they sound a bit higher. Okay, that sounds okay. In terms of range, not a hi-hat. Now, I'm going to make it snappy, just what we've been doing. Hear that? I'm going to make another one, and I'm going to make it also snappy. We can mess with the chorus. See? Close to a metal sound. Now, I'm going to make another envelope, snappy, no sustain, no release, and turn it up. Okay. And now I'm going to add some noise. And I'm going to do the same for the noise. No sustain, no release. Play with the decay a bit. We're almost there. What we're going to do is try out the different algorithms. It's a closed heart. Same thing, put some verb there, bounce it down to audio, and you're good to go. For EDM, this would go extreme, play different notes, pitch them, tune it different. But what we are going over in this workshop is the basics of sound design, so that you can make the basic sound, sample your synthesized sounds, and then go from there, make it extreme as you want it. I'll at this point give you an assignment to recreate a kick, a snare, and a hi-hat, and bounce down the samples, the audio files. These things we recorded up here. You know what an audio sample is. One shots or loops, and send them to me. I'll listen and we'll go from there. Remember, there isn't one formula to make this. This is just how I work. So one thing I didn't mention earlier is that the white noise, you can adjust the attack a bit, because it's the actual vibrations of the cymbals going, the air, it doesn't come right away. When you get the heat, when these guys are hitting, this guy comes later. It's a matter of how you balance the sound. Alright, now we continue to make one last drum sound, and that is the tom. Now we want a tom, and the concept is quite the same. We start with the first oscillator and get rid of the sustain and the release. But now we have to be a bit careful with the decay. Okay? Because they have a bit of a ring to them. Let's manipulate our pitch envelope, but we don't want it to do much. Get rid of the release and set the peak about there and put the amount. And adjust the decay. Let me play a bit lower. And on this, we are going to do the same. Okay, that's not bad. What we are going for is a nice fat tom. So to get the body, I'm just layering another sine wave and reducing the decay beat. Now let's add some white noise to this. See what we get. Nasty. Isn't that at a tom? Let's mess around with the output algorithms. All 808 toms can be made now. Maybe let's play with this noise a bit. It's a bit. I need it to snap. See? So I'm just playing some random stuff. It's not really music that is planned. If I play everything together, kick, snare,